Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to yet another fireside chat. I think it's number seven. And I think it seems like, Glenn, we have to call this more of a beach or a waterside, poolside chat
I,
here.
I think since I'm at the BMO conference here in Miami, let's go with Oceanside. I think that's probably the most appropriate.
Okay, so welcome to the oceanside chat this time, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while. We wanted to give an update actually earlier already. As you know, it's been quite a tumultuous first few weeks of the new year here. We had a wonderful chat during the holiday season. You remember you were, I think, somewhere in
In
Mexico.
Mexico, yes, yes, yes.
We gave an update about the exciting situation in the silver market, and indeed, silver went completely nuts back then until basically end of January. And here we are now, 24th of February. Things have calmed down a little bit, but we had a spectacular rally up to $122 nearly in silver, spot
Amazing.
price. And of course, then, yeah, the market got a little bit ahead of itself, I would say. And silver came crashing down within a week, 43% down, hard sell-off down to 64. But again, here we are, yesterday, 89 already. We have higher lows, higher highs. So I think the worst, as it seems, is already behind us here. And
hmm
both metals, gold as well as silver, are actually already, yeah, not only retracing that pullback, but also basically looking like they building a base here and want to move higher rather soon, I
So
would say.
that's what you're seeing. I mean, we were very pleased with the way it kind of caught itself, but also really has rebounded so well. I mean, as you know, as we always talked about, these prices are it's like Christmas every day for us as miners, because of the amount of money the projects make. But you know, being as it got to $100 and $5,500, it's nice to see it tracking back towards that, even though it's more than we could ever hope for.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall the price environment that we are now having is just unbelievably good and really amazing for all the miners. And I mean, we've crunched the numbers quite a few times in our calls and also in our dinners with investors. And I think, I mean, look, I don't think let's call it like this. In the very big picture, I'm very sure the bull market is not over. Okay, it's been a healthy pullback now. This will take a little bit of time. That's what we have seen a few times now over the last two and a half years, especially in gold.
hmm
Now that silver has finally shown up to the party and went completely nuts, basically starting last April into late January this year. Okay, spectacular rally. It started at $28, went up to $122. This will take a little bit of time to digest. Okay, but in the big picture, I don't think we have seen the top of the secular bull market. Quite the contrary. I think it was just the first really first idea of how escalating this bull market actually will be in the future. And so I assume right now that we have a consolidation, a base building here. This could last a few weeks, maybe even a few months. And I think later that year, we most likely will see a new all-time high in gold, and then silver at some point will also catch up. My thesis right now, or my assumption right now, is that silver probably will lag a little bit initially. Gold needs to lead again, and that's what we're seeing now over the last few weeks.
Right.
But today, for example, surprisingly, silver is stronger than gold. Gold came back down a little bit. Silver held up much better, and there is this big, yeah, elephant in the room: the potential force majeure in the Comex silver future markets. I don't really know what to think about it. Lots of theories, and yeah, it's complicated. I mean, the truth is, we never have seen such a setup before in the history of the Comex. So it's going to be very interesting how this is going to play out over the next few hours and days. We have registered 88.2 million contracts for the February contract, and then the first notice is tomorrow, and the March coverage is between 44 and 61% right now. So it could really mean that there is not enough physical metal around this time, and
Ah,
it's very interesting how this is going to play out, because I think that's something we can and should also mention. I said it before, silver was ahead of itself in January. I think there's no doubt about. But the way it came down was also to me, I think it was also engineered. Remember, the LBMA got closed on that Friday. They had 3 margin increases on the Comex. The Chinese increased the margins as well, and then silver came crashing down really hard.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's going to be very, very interesting how this is playing out. But in the mid to longer run, I'm not worried here at all. I think volatility will stay high. That's something we have to accept.
Hmm.
And it's more and more difficult to get your hands on the physical metal. I think that's also something that I see. For example, if I want to buy some more silver in Germany, the premiums are at least 30% on the physical metal. So
Oh,
that will,
that much. That's incredible.
yeah. And so I think that's what we're seeing all over the world. Same, by the way, here in Dubai, it's very hard to get your hands on the metal. It's at least 10, 12% premiums.
Hmm.
And so I think overall the bull market is intact, healthy pullback. We are in a consolidation period now. Maybe it takes a few weeks or even a few months, but overall, I think everything is on the way to higher prices down the road.
Well, that makes me very happy. Thank you, Florian, for that great news. We haven't chatted. We've been both so busy, and
Right.
it's great to hear that. And it's exactly sort of what I thought. Most things you talked about, I don't watch it and chart it like you do, but it's just we feel the same that somehow, as miners, and we've been doing this for a long, long time in Mexico, something fundamentally changed with respect to the price. And we never thought we'd be here. But we have a feeling now as we start to look over a couple of hills and we start to build our minds that this could be something that's here for quite some time, and that is more than we can hope for. And boy, does it ever bolster our business model, which is strong at a third of these prices. And it's great to hear that. So thank you for that. Look, I think maybe what I should do, because it's been a while. I think it was the last week of December we were able to chat. We were going to do one, and I'll talk about this in a minute because I want to really give some thoughts on it to the listeners. I think I planned. I was flying back from VRIC, the big show in Vancouver. We were going to do, I think, Wednesday. I got back Tuesday. We had something, Fireside Chat number 7 booked, and of course, while I was flying home on Tuesday, we got offered another bot deal. I want to talk about that in a minute. I want people to understand my thought process on when I take money to fund our projects, how I do it. But first, let's give a little update on El Tigre. Things are going very, very well there. It's business as usual in El Tigre. We've been working very hard, as you know, first and still only new permit in Mexico since 2019, and a surface mine permit at that. So we've been executing very well since that period of time, and full on the mountain right now with respect to building. What does that look like? Well, that looks like roads, that looks like camp, that looks like all of the first things you have to do. We just finished our final general engineering with KCA. That was delivered at the end of January. That will give us feasibility study level costing and engineering. WSP were also involved. Now, this was a 6-month process. We made this call last summer to get this all done. Delivered a lot of the updated costing and design for pit, leach pad, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of progress has been made, but really now, last 2 weeks, the big things that needed to happen have happened. And as you know, Francisco Labalaise, who built all of those big open pit mines for Argonaut and Sonora, is leading the charge for us. We hired him as our COO 2 years ago. He's put his team back together now. So all of his key lieutenants that were with him for years have now joined us, and that team has been built out. We have a fundamental decision to make. I think I've made it. I'll wait until we can fully announce it, but we want this execution of this build to go seamlessly. Francisco and I have talked a lot about how we're going to do that. We've put out contracts or requests for proposals and costing for EPCM. I think that is, we'll do a hybrid between his team and an EPCM builder to help us. The build is going to be about 18 to 20 months, as everyone knows. And stay tuned for more on that. When I say an EPCM, I would mean, and I'm not saying this is what we're doing, but we hired KCA, Caps Cassidy Associates, who are the best open pit mine engineering firm and builders, basically, I think, on the planet. Done most of the work in the U.S. and a lot in Mexico of the big surface mines. We would probably put a contract out to someone like that, and then decide who we were going to choose to help us. Stay tuned for that. I think we'll make final decisions on how exactly we're going to execute here in the next week to two, and then I'll be able to talk more about that. But very busy on the mountain at El Tigre. We're still staying focused on basically delivering on time, on budget, and executing the build of the surface mine. And more information will be coming regularly on that on a monthly basis. So that's exciting. And second thing is, and we hadn't had a chance to talk about it, and just to remind people, the value of getting that first permits in 2019 so we could build that surface mine in El Tigre. That's at today's prices. I mean, and long may they last. That generates an NPV, and I'm talking US dollars, approximately $1 billion. The IRR is well in excess of 100%. And I think over the 9-year mine life, which is only 60% of the ore, people remember optimized in that first part of the surface mine. This thing generates, about 160 million USD after tax free cash flow a year over the 9-year mine life. And then we'll push back after that and get the rest of the 40% of the ore that's not delineated in the PFS we delivered. Second thing is, which is very exciting, is January, and I don't think we've had a chance to talk about this, certainly not publicly on our chats, is that the PA was delivered for the underground portion, and boy, was that ever exciting! I haven't really had time to talk to many people about that yet, but that delivered a 15-year mine life at 800 tons per day. Remembering we're fully permitted for that underground mine also. That was historic. And I think, just don't quote me, but around today's prices, rough numbers, that will generate an NPV of about 1.3 billion US, up and above the billion for the surface mine. IRR, I think, is approaching 170%. I don't know how we even get to that number. I didn't calculate it. The independent, of course, consultants did when they built the model for the PA. But over the 15-year mine life, it's almost 2 billion US after tax free cash flows generated. So what's that over 15? Another 120 million to bolt on to the 160 million roughly that the surface mine would make. So a very, very substantial and extremely profitable project. So we're excited. A lot going on. Building the surface mine fully permitted, driving that PA forward so that we can get going on the build of the underground as soon as possible, and we can do the underground mine at any time during the build process or after the build process to bolt that on as a bolt-on underground to the surface mine. Make no mistake, I want to be very clear though, the next 6-8 months, we will continue to work the underground, but it's drive the construction of the surface mine forward as fast as possible, because to get that first permit and to be able to do this, it's a priority for us right now. So that's
Excellent.
exciting. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks, Glenn.
Anything else? Well, go ahead. What would you like to hear about?
Maybe you can just share one word to the situation right now in Mexico, because I think people have seen terrible news, but I think it's necessary to clarify.
I will do that. One thing I think I should do, and we talked about it at the beginning, and why I wasn't able to do the last update with you, the end of January is I always have to decide. You can see that it's 100 million to build roughly the surface mine, another 70 or 80 million in the PEA to build the underground and get that in production. So, capital is always something that's very important for us. And as our track record has shown, capital is basically unlimited for us once we do the work and prove what people believe we'll do. Develop a project, get a permit, and build it. And that's where we are in both the surface mine and the underground. It was, I was at VRIC and left VRIC, got on a plane, and was about an hour into my flight when another banker, a banker from Stifel, after his flight took off, I was going to Montreal and to Halifax. He was going to Toronto. We were offered a $50 million bought deal financing. That's how it happens. And, I have to do an analysis in my head, and I did that. And I like to explain people, how I make decisions and issue stock. We now have almost 100 million USD in the bank. People can look at what our build cost is, and that's a very good chunk, if not all of the money that we need to really drive this project almost to finish, especially the service line. I always weigh equity versus debt. What I want to explain to people, and I did this in another interview, not recently, last week, but I wanted people to understand, the investors, what debt is versus equity for a mining company. Debt is not like going to get a mortgage on your house where you get a 4% interest rate for a mining project. That's just not how it works. The interest rate, if you negotiated very, very well, would be, extremely well, would be 12 to 14%. But that's not all the debt providers that loan money to mining companies like ours want. They want extra return. Extra return could be, and I'm not saying that would be, something we do, but when they start, they will want a number of things. They will ask for a streaming agreement, which takes a lot of value out of the project. They could ask for an offtake agreement, which takes a lot of value out of the project. They could ask for a royalty, which takes a lot of value out of the project. They certainly always want warrants, and sometimes they want to invest their own money at the rate when they do the loan. So I really, and I know most people would understand that, but some investors may not think that way. They think debt is just, well, why wouldn't you just get debt at 5%? It doesn't exist. A very good negotiated debt package would be, maybe when it's all bolted in, 20%. I think we might even be able to do better than that with El Tigre when we look at debt. But I want people to understand that when I look at taking 60 million as equity, which we just did, and we look at taking, a debt, I do an analysis. And I'm one of the largest shareholders of the company. I do what's best for the shareholders, which includes myself. So I made that decision. I think it was the absolute right decision for us to take that money. It puts us in the absolute driver's seat now with almost 100 million USD in the bank. And as I consider getting the rest of the money, debt or otherwise, the cards and leverage I have to make sure that it's the best deal for the company and the shareholders has gone way, way up. So, I just want to let people know that's how I made the decision. Looking at timing, we took it at the very absolute top of the market. The institutions that invested that money, we had 40 institutions on the book. There was more than $150 million of demand for the original 40 we went out. So I did upsize to 50. And even after near the end of the transaction, was closed last week, when we were trading where we were, they exercised the shoe and took the other 15%. So we got almost $60 million. But what a vote of confidence. Many, many new funds in there. And this is important for you, Florian. When you see a long, long life bull market, and we saw one in 2006, the last to come to the table are the generalist funds. Some of the generalist funds that requested a fill on that financing were the biggest in the world. We haven't seen them since 2006, I'm sorry. So fundamentally, they're looking over many, many hills into the future. And for them to come, and we're still a small mining company, and to want to take, but some of them were looking for $10 million fills, and they ended up getting 3 or 4 because we had to cut everybody back. But a real message, and I think it fits right in with what you're saying, a consolidation of an increasing bull market. They're the smartest in the world, and they don't come to mining lightly, and they're back. And boy, is that ever going to help everybody, the company, the demand, which of course is going to help the shareholders in the long run. So I want to explain that. I think it's important because I don't make decisions lightly about anything with respect to our company. And you're given not a lot of time. By the time that plane landed in Montreal, the deal was done and the money was in the bank. That was a 6-hour flight. So you have to do a lot of thinking. And I did it at 40,000 feet and made the decision. Now, security. The first thing I'm going to say is that Mexico is a very big country. I used this example to one of the investors this morning I talked to. And what I said to him, he was from New York. And he said, well, look at everything that's happening in Mexico. How is it affecting you? I said, well, you're in New York. I said, how bad was it in New York City when all of the things that were happening in Minnesota were going on? And he looked at me and said, what are you talking about? That was in Minnesota. And I said, exactly. So nothing was going on in New York. So I used the same example. Sonora is completely, we use the word tranquilo. Nothing has changed there for us. I would get in a vehicle today and I would drive to the mountain if I was in Mexico with no concerns. Um, there is a lot going on to the south. It's very hot there right now. And, we let that play out, but that does not affect us. We are at the US border and everything there is completely tranquil. It's business as usual. That's all I can say with respect to that. And, do we think about it? Yes. Has it affected our operations in any way? Absolutely not. It's business as usual.
Good, excellent. Good to hear that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ben. Well, maybe as a final word from you, where can people see you? I think you're going to be
Oh
busy
yeah,
traveling.
boy. It's been craziness. So, um, as I said, didn't even get back from finished VRIC, and on the plane the next morning going back to Halifax, we were offered the money. I couldn't mark it, and I really find that hard. It was just 3 weeks to close that. I can't do any updates. I can't talk to people. That's the laws we have. So boy, I'm out of the box now as of last week. So we started here with the BMO show. This is the invite only. The atmosphere here is incredible. I mean, at these prices, no one ever thought they'd see them even after the pullback. The institutions are excited. They're the investors. The companies are riding high. It's just buoyant here. So I will finish here on Thursday. I get home Thursday night. I have one day at home. To see my wife and children. That's really wonderful. Saturday morning, back on a plane. We're in the MIF conference in Toronto. I'll be presenting with on the Saturday night around 5 o'clock there, El Tigre, we're attending. And then, of course, Sunday we roll right into PDAC, where basically we have a booth, of course, and people can come and see us there. I'll have a lot of meetings in town. There's a big group of the Mexican government coming to PDAC. Very interested in mining, which is very positive, the highest level. Tuesday will be a day where I'll be spending a lot of time with the delegation from Mexico. I think there's a breakfast, there's supper, and there's a lot of meetings I'll be having. So really nice to be seeing, the interest they're having. There was an announcement made. I think people should pay attention to this. Last week, I think it was, there was a delegation from Canada led by our government that met from the highest levels, met with the highest level of the Mexican government. And there's a press release out there. Don't quote me the name or the date, but people can go find it, where, there's a letter of agreement or an understanding between the Mexican government and the Canadian government that mining in Mexico supported by Canadians is going to be a very, very high priority for both governments. So boy, that was so positive. And I hope people have saw that. If they haven't, go look at it and read it. It was a very, very positive development for us as Canadian investors and miners that have been there for, our group almost 30 years. So that was very exciting. And then I get home for 3 or 4 days, and then I'm coming to see you, I think. I think I fly into Nice the week after PDAC. And boy, I think it's Monaco for a full day of marketing. And then I think you put me on a plane, you send me to Paris for a full day of marketing. And then I get on a plane on that, I think it's Tuesday. And then I go to the Zurich, the big SMI show for 2 days where we're doing dinners and presentations. And I think on Friday morning, I go to Geneva for a full day of marketing. And then finally, I'm going to go home and spend, I think, at least 2 weeks in Halifax. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's a lot of marketing, but the timing was okay for us with respect to the thing, because the 3 weeks I was kind of out of the marketing game, I didn't have to. It didn't cost me any of my travel, so that was made me very happy. Because, as you know, we're pretty transparent. We like to be as transparent as we can with anyone who wants to know about the company, and especially our current shareholders. So hopefully they get some value out of this. I look forward to seeing you. The next time will be, I guess, we'll see you in Zurich when I arrive.
Exactly. I think that's what we're gonna do the next video probably.
Yes, that's
And
right. Let's do a. Well, it'll be still cold there, so we're going to go back to a fireside chat. We'll find a fire.
exactly, very good.
Good.
Great. Thanks for letting us know all the details here, Glenn.
Thank
So
you.
lots of opportunities to catch up with you and the company in the next few weeks
Wonderful.
in Canada as well as in Europe. and I'm very much looking forward to see you again.
We will sit
Exciting.
down and have a good bite of food together. I can't wait.
Exactly. Me too. All the
Thank
best.
you.
See you soon. All the best for the viewers as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorian. See you now. Bye.